When discussing trans representation, there's this common binary of good and bad. These two labels are undefined and ambiguous, making these discussions messy and honestly contentious. Everyone has a slightly different opinion on what a good or bad depiction is. And I'm gonna throw my hat into the ring. With a twist, of course. Trans representation in media has always been haunted by scarcity. For decades, we were either invisible or monstrous. But now, in the age of fandom, streaming, and social media, we've entered this weird new era, where representation is plentiful but inconsistent, and where we, as trans people, get to claim ownership over characters in a way that was impossible before. But before we go in depth on that, let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Sunny Dionysus. I'm an artist, a YouTuber, and most of all, an annoyance. I am fascinated by our digital age and how fandoms shape and reshape the stories they love. If that sounds appealing, make sure to subscribe and like the video. I propose that instead of a binary, we think of trans representation as sitting at the intersection of four pillars: good, bad, honest, and dishonest. The bad and good labels are defining external reactions to a character outside of the trans community. A character that furthers a right-wing narrative and emboldens transphobia is bad representation. Vice versa, a character that can teach cis people and genuinely create understanding is good representation. The honest and dishonest axis, however, reflects how we, trans people, see ourselves in media. This is the internal lens. If a trans character not only is treated like a person and not a cardboard cutout, it resonates with the experience of trans people. However, this is very subjective since we are not a monolith. The first aspect is that the character is treated like an actual person, and that is a pillar of honesty. On the other hand, a dishonest character is one that refuses to engage with the trans community. The character feels disconnected from any trans experience. Of course, honesty is subjective. What feels authentic to one trans person might not land for another. But the key question is, does this character feel like they're made for us or about us? To explain the spectrum, let's fill out this diagram. A bad and dishonest trans character is Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. Even though Bill embodies many violent transmisogynistic stereotypes, like wanting a woman's skin, he is said to not be transsexual. This is dishonest, in my opinion. The movie desperately tries to persuade the audience that no, Bill is not a trans woman, he just wants to become a woman. It's bizarre to me. The dishonesty lies in how the film tries to gaslight the viewer. It introduces the character dripping with transmisogyny, then pretends it doesn't count. As Lily Wachowski, the director of the Matrix movies, wrote in her coming out essay, "Though we've come a long way since Silence of the Lambs, we continue to be demonized and vilified in media. We are not predators, we are prey." And honestly, if the creator of The Matrix negatively references my movie in a coming out statement, I wouldn't depict a trans person ever again. Even though the movie lies to the viewer about the depiction of Bill, it's still damaging and bad representation. Now, hear me out. A bad but honest representation is Steven from Steven Universe, and I'm going to need everyone to hear me out for like 5 minutes. Steven, in my opinion, is coded as a trans character. He continually is misgendered by the Diamond Authority that are a metaphor for his birth family. he fights back against the tyrannical binary that is Homeworld, and every single fusion involved with him is trans. I'll link a video explaining this in detail, but know that Steven is incredibly trans-mask coded to me. Look at him. This is a trans boy. But I will say he's bad representation because his trans coding can be overlooked easily in favor of other characters' queerness. Cis audiences can read him as safe, sensitive, and a straight boy, which he's two of those things. But in my opinion, his struggles and narratives are incredibly honest to the trans experience. Okay, one more spicy take. I know she's technically not canon, but hear me out again. A character that I find to be good representation, but dishonest, is June from Homestuck. June, formerly John, technically is not a character in Homestuck, but a nebulous fan-made version. While by some standards, aka authorial blessing, June is determined to be canon, it's also not straightforwardly depicted. However, the fans took this character and fucking ran with it. While I believe that the intent was dishonest from the creator, June has been an incredible depiction of transness. I personally have a lot of love for Homestuck alternate universe's June, and there is so much fan art exploring her gender in the fandom. June has since become a cultural icon in trans Homestuck spaces. Fanworks explored her gender with creativity and care, and because of this, she's honestly helped cis fans engage with trans ideas in approachable, empathetic ways. She may not be canon, but she's undeniably good, in my opinion, let's be real. Let's talk about Mettaton, finally. I fucking love this diva. I believe he is both good and honest representation of the trans experience. Not only is he a fully fledged character that has flaws and greatness in him, he also has a down-to-earth story about being trans. His story isn't centered around trauma. Well, sort of. It's about ambition. He wants the spotlight, he wants to be seen, and that hunger feels deeply real to many trans people who spent years hiding. The moment when Mettaton chooses glamour and femininity over comfort and approval, that's not just camp, it's trans. He opens the door for many cis viewers to empathize with our struggles because it is so tied to his motives. Then, with the help of alphas, he transitions into a glam, unapologetic version of himself. Even better, Mettaton's gender is never the butt of the joke. His flamboyance isn't mocked, it's adored. He's respected by the game, by the fandom, and even by the narrative structure itself. That's rare. And most importantly, he feels like he was made for us, not about us. While I think Mettaton is a great sweet spot of trans representation, I hold varying types of fondness for the other categories. These categories are not strict. They're messy, just like gender, just like media. But I think it's helpful to ask, who is this character for? Who are they about? And do they make a space for us to see ourselves, not as props or metaphors, but as people? At the end of the day, I don't think every trans character needs to be a perfect role model. I just want them to be real. What characters feel honest to you? Which ones help you feel seen? Even if they aren't canonically trans. Drop them in the comments. I want to hear all your spicy takes.